Hey everybody, welcome back. James here again with you. And in this video, I want to share with you how to get your Venturi Avenger in 22 caliber to shoot slugs probably as good as pellets, if not better, depending on the range. Now, with that said, this is my factory Venturi Avenger 22 caliber, and the thing is, it's missing something. I removed something externally from this rifle to get the slug to shoot really good at 100 yards. So, before I let you know what it was that I removed, let me explain to you why this 22, this model particular, does not like slugs as good as pellets. Even though it can shoot pellets and slugs, the pellets seem to do better than slugs overall. Now, with that said, the reasoning behind that is, if you've been watching my main channel, STKO, you've heard me talk about this new tuning method that I found of the trajectory of the projectile, and I am able to figure out exactly at which point during its flight path at a given distance that the projectile is stable or unstable on impact at the target. Now, I know that was a lot, but here's the thing. Pellets are made to shoot with an arc. And the reasoning for that is airgun barrels have to point up a lot more than like a firearm barrel does. 22 rimfire, centerfire. These air gun barrels have to point way up to get the pellet to match the line of sight at your set distance. Now, what was happening with the slugs in comparison to the pellet? Well, the pellets were fine. They shot pretty good. You could tune them in about any velocity you want. I've done that. And I actually left this gun at the same velocity when I shot Crossman Premier hollow points, sub MOA at 50 yards at 1,000 feet a second. So the gun loves pellets the way it is out of the box. No problem there. But here's the problem. With the barrel pointed too far up, it does not like slugs. Slugs should not fly like that. They just don't care to fly like pellets because they're not a pellet. With that said, the barrel has to come down. And once the barrel came down, or once I moved the barrel down, and by removing something from this rifle out of the box, it lowered the barrel down. So let me show you that now as to what the results were at 100 yards shooting the H&N 21 grain 218 slug. And the settings of this gun, which I'll say in the clip also, is that it was 2200 psi on the reg and 4.5 turns in on the hammer spring, which allowed me to shoot the Crossman Premier hollow points at 1,000, just shooting and seeing how well those pellets were stable at that velocity, which they were again at 50 yards sub MOA. So now let me show you at 100 yards using these slugs. Sub MOA, Slugs, 100 yards. Factory magazine, O-ring delete kit. The scope is the same settings as with the Crossman hollow points, the same hammer spring, I think 4.5 turns, 2200 PSI. But I did something different. This gun is missing something externally, not internally. It's missing something. If you can guess it, let me know in the comments. Let's go down there and take a look. Sub MOA at 100 yards with slugs. 5 shots. Had to take a sighter to see where it was hitting at. Even though the slug was dropping a lot quicker than pellets at the same setting, there we go. Sub MOA. 5 shots. First one was a sighter. Woo! So as you've seen there, that is crazy that those slugs shot that good, like literally a half an inch. Half-inch group, 5 shots. After I took my sighter shot at 100 yards, guys. That is crazy. Now again, as you heard me mention, the slug still lost a lot of its energy in comparison to a pellet. That's why I said that the barrels have to arc up more for pellets, because the ballistic coefficient and the way that it flies, it burns a lot of energy. Well, it's even worse when you have a gun that the barrel is pointing too far up and you're shooting slugs, and the slug going up like this burns a lot of energy, and then it just wants to drop down and they don't want to shoot that good. So literally that's what the slugs were doing. They were coming out of the barrel at an angle, coming up, and about halfway at whatever yardage I was shooting at, they would start to turn in air, in flight, and just not group good at any distance. Now I've got them to shoot decent. I wouldn't say as good as pellets at closer range, but nothing like that at 100 yards, barely over a half an inch. So now with all that said, what did I do? All I did was remove the grub screws from the barrel band. That's right, because when you put those grub screws in there, it pins the barrel to the top of the barrel band, lifting the barrel up more. Well, now that they're out of there and I removed them, this barrel is technically free floating in there. There's nothing holding it, pinning it in, nothing like that. But the problem is the threads underneath here, when the grub screws are in, the grub screws go in and lift the shroud up because they actually leave markings on the shroud. And I know this is the first edition of the Avenger, because the newer models have the plastic ball tipped set grub screws. But still, if it's touching the shroud at all, it'll lift your barrel up. So again, that's all I did, was remove the set grub screws here on the barrel band on both sides, and it allowed the barrel to drop down a little bit instead of being pinned upward. And I want to go over with you real quick before I let you go of the process that I went through to get those slugs to shoot really good. Now, with that said, I left the gun in the same settings like I mentioned, and what I did was I got my scope using hold under at 50 yards. So the slugs were shooting 1 mil dot high at 50 yards and clover leafing. And then I took it out to 100 yards. And that's how you get the slugs to shoot good in this gun, guys. After all that trial and error of all these different slugs that, you know, people have tried, and it was just, it's not going to happen, especially shooting that good in comparison to pellets, unless you lower the barrel. in relation to your scope, because when you sit there and hold your scope on bull, the slug is not doing this arc anymore. It's going straight out, and that's what you want. So I appreciate you watching as always. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, subscribe to the channel and like the video, and I hope to see you on the next one, guys. Thanks again.